We will double overturn the questions. Like, first of all, rebuilding the link between the policy process and citizen participation is impossible. And it is not possible because that link has never been built in first place. So if it will be, and I believe it should, it will pretty much have to be a start from scratch. 1989, and a world-famous politologist who happens to enjoy my disdain, Francis Fukuyama, in a book mentioned by the first speaker, Martin Maestricht, declares history over. With the fall of the wall and the triumph of capitalism, neoliberalism becomes the only and the best form of political faith for imposing the market dogma. Can't go forward, can't go back, says Francis, and we are stuck in a sort of future forever where in the free market religion, serving God money, the equal human being has no place or role or reason to exist, but to enrich the richer, to keep enriching the richest, to adhere to the capital cult. No questions asked, no prayers useful. In a then still bipolar Western political system, in a sort of perverse and all-wrong Halloween, the socialists rebranded and dressed up as social democrats from then on, starting to cancel their own identity and to imitate the conservatives. With all of this, representative democracy goes further and further away from representing the ambitions and expectations of the public, of the people. Because while in parallel, the policies of the whole bipolar system are the policies of the right. Market economy is the world of the right. Money is the word of the right. Profit over people is the swindle of the right. People, and I'm not surprised that in the survey we had at the beginning of this, people was the first term that came up when we talk about populism. During these decades, quite frankly, I can't quite see the aforementioned link between policy process and citizen participation. It is a bridge that must have fallen and been submerged by a river flow of dollars and euros. Here we come then to the second overturning of the question and the core of our collaboration, populism. Populist mobilization itself fired up citizens' participation on both the right and the left. On the other side of the ocean, ever since the so-called Tea Party, which you might remember erupted in 2009, and then evolved into Trumpism. Trumpist candidates, we saw it even yesterday, a few hours ago in the midterm elections, they didn't go that great for Donald Trump, but they went well enough. They have the control of the House now, at least, and perhaps of the Senate. And they have from the grassroots regularly beaten out of touch elite conservative candidates. They've been beaten. Same as happened out of the red into the blue with somebody mentioned Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She, on a total populist platform, won, I think, by 71% last night. If we move down recently into 2018, a right populist won the elections in Brazil, Bolsonaro. In 2022, a left populist wins the elections in Brazil. Brexit, notable for the Russian algorithmical influence in the electoral process, but even more so because of the populist campaigning. That was totally a populist platform, which I adversed, I didn't like, but that's what it was. What do all these populists, left and right of the border, have in common? They have in common citizens' mobilization, passionate, often angry, always relevant. Real, relevant mobilization. So one of the answers brought by all this, but also to be given to all of this, injected into all of this, is raising citizen participation, raising it everywhere. Not ruling off altogether representative democracy, of course not, but expanding democracy, adding to representative democracy, direct democracy, and even more important, participatory democracy, which, if you think about it, it's quite a populist statement to expand democracy to everybody. The kind of populism this kind of populism we should all actually embrace. Because while the left succumbed to the right by grotesquely imitating it, Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Matteo Renzi, populism can only be beaten with populism, not by the status quo. The status quo has lost. It has lost it. And we should all win. Either we beat them at their own game, or we have lost without having any chance to even play at all. Populism, in being anti-system, is intrinsically progressive. It is more progressive than progressivism. The problem with populism is when it is stolen from its root. And the root of the word populism, as I was saying before, as we saw in the survey, is nothing else than the people. And it's way more democratic than the status quo. The United States of America Constitution, it doesn't open with the line, "with the elite." It opens with the people. So even the upper class elite who wrote it, because the elite wrote that, not the people, understood originally that the people must come from the upper class, must come before the upper class elites. So stolen from its roots. As populism is exquisitely offspring of the left, populism originated in the People's Party, a party now defunct of the United States towards the end of the 19th century. When it is stolen from its root, from the left, it's called something else. It's called sovereignism. Populism of the right, we could almost split it into populism is of the left, sovereignism of the right. There are exceptions, exception also to what I consider to be good, positive left populism. Bad exceptions, like, for instance, Venezuela, Chavez and Maduro. That's not good. But knowing and taking full well the risk of coming up as biased, left populism from Occupy Wall Street to Lula, from the beginning to the most recent hand, it tends to work, generally speaking, and a generalization here is mandatory, tends to work in favor of the people and to be controlled by the people, which is even more important, even control in the streets, Occupy Wall Street, or control in the voting booth with Lula. That's another key difference. Right populism is a travesty, a theft, because when the right steals it and makes it its, like Trump, Bolsonaro, Johnson, Le Pen, Salvini, sadly, it still gives an answer to the lower class, to the common man, to the people, but it is all wrong because it's controlled by them, not by the people, platform-wise, whether not policy-wise. The proof is in the pudding. Like, the workers who used to vote communist nowadays vote for neo-fascists, like Rassemblement National, or ultra-conservative, like Lega Nord, Salvini Premier. So how can the answer to this trend be isolating even more into elitists, polished ivory towers, instead of putting our boots in the mud of the common ground and talking to the hearts, but also to the bellies of the people? Because once upon a time, our bellies were empty, like our ancestors, just like the people that used to vote for us, the people that were alike, that they were us, basically. That's what it was. The people were the people. And now the people that used to be us, they used to vote for us, they're angry against us. They vote for our opposite, for our polar opposite, dividing us. We have examples of good left populism. I kind of disagree with what Castriota said when she said that mainly populism in the past 10 years has been right populism, what I call sovereignism. I tend to disagree, because we have great examples, like not only firebrand examples that came real close, like Mélenchon in France, but examples that saved it all, like Alexis Tsipras, who saved Greece and probably Europe from itself. Our examples that were transformational of a bipolar system, like Podemos, which is currently governing in Spain, the first coalition government since the dictatorship of Franco, pushing the agenda to a radicalism always needed and never accomplished this much and this far. Go look at what they're achieving there. For the many, not the few, to quote Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn or Shelley. As the philosopher Michael Alzer most recently highlighted, the proof of how unnatural, I would say untrue, is right populism lies in the fact that when the right assumes a populist posture, then that is the social right. But it's not so much the neocon right. What we're seeing today, it's just the neocon right. You know, social is the root of the word socialism, just like the people is the root of populism. But what the right is doing, for example, in Italy, it's not a social right. It's the neocon right, which isn't going anywhere. So if we want to play once again, that's the game we have to beat even ourselves at. So last and not least, how to approach this? It's the third and final question, I think. Well, we have to approach it first and foremost by approaching it, not by ignoring it, keeping distance from it, being afraid, scared of angry, shouting people. Remember the boots in the mud or the tea in the sea, regarding it as, you know, out of touch with what is out of touch. Like we don't want to imitate the right? It feels, if it feels distant, it's because we are out of touch. We have to touch the ground. We have to approach populism not as an alien, because we risk to be the aliens. Not as something exclusively dangerous, different, negative, nefarious, but as something that is part of the zeitgeist that we live in today. And we do not want and cannot afford to be out of that zeitgeist, out of the game of history, because no, it's not over yet. And it is true when somebody say that traditional parties are crumbling, and it is not a bad thing, because they didn't serve the people. And so not over yet. It doesn't belong to the elites. No, it cannot stay unattended, unattained, untouchable, unapproached. We should unite. Thank you.